SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae is returning record amounts of money to Mississippians, whether it's through the College and Career Savings Program or the hundreds of millions in unclaimed money awaiting your claim. Treasurer David McRae says get your applications and claims in today. Treasury.ms.gov.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Good morning. Thursday morning, the 7th of August. Welcome. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for starting your day with us. Weekend is just around the corner. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Glad to be with you. The C Spire text line, as we begin things this morning, is open to you. 601-879-4395. The best teams know how to get even better. That's why C Spire constantly enhances their wireless fiber internet and business solutions for you. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. If you were with us yesterday afternoon on Sports Talk Mississippi, you know that the Not Fall Camp Tour is underway. I know it's not the case for everybody, but there's some carryover listeners, right, that are with us in the morning, that are with us in the afternoon. So for those of you that were with us yesterday afternoon, thanks. That was a lot of fun, especially for the people that came by and hung out, maybe had a little happy hour and stop by to meet us or whatever. Really, really cool way to kick off the Not Fall Camp Tour yesterday in Oxford. Be in Starkville next Wednesday and Hattiesburg the following Wednesday, 13 days from now. But that was yesterday afternoon. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning.
How are you, pal?
Oh, I'm doing great. So the Not So Fall Camp Tour was kicked off well. You got two more to go.
It was
one
good.
Down. I'm sure people had a good time after that. You got them all ready to go, thinking about football and a few weeks away.
Yeah, had a bunch of fun guests yesterday and just a lot going on.
You got to do a trial run. You know, if you're a fan, you want to make sure you know where to park and get out and go to your restaurant and know where to get the libations.
There you go.
So yesterday was a good warm-up.
There you go. I like it. I hope there are no middle-of-the-week football games, but
yeah, but you still you got to go check it out. You got to know your route
on a Wednesday.
Yeah, you got to know your route.
No doubt. Warming up a little bit. It's been a nice week. Considering what it's been like for the last few weeks, it has been really, really nice. You know, going back to the start of last weekend with highs in the kind of upper 80s and a little bit less humidity. It's creeping back up. We are not anywhere close to out of the woods on summer just yet. In Oxford today, mostly sunny skies, high of 93. Winds light and variable. Itabena, you got 95 today with plentiful sunshine, light winds. Oak Grove, a stray shower or thunderstorm is possible with some intervals of clouds and sunshine and a high of 92 with winds out of the northeast, which is always nice. That's at about 5 to 10 miles an hour. South Mississippi, like way south Mississippi, D'Iberville, coastal Mississippi, partly cloudy this morning. Thunderstorms developing later in the day, high of 89. Winds out of the east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance of rain pretty significant at 70% today for D'Iberville. You remember how wet it was in May and June?
Oh, man.
I thought it'd never quit raining?
It was the plants loved it. You know, you didn't have to water your yard. Didn't have to water the plants.
I did.
A little damp, a little humid, a lot of flies and mosquitoes there for a bit. I haven't noticed them as much lately, though, so You can tell the humidity has died down a bit.
It was, I don't know, second, maybe third week of July before I turned sprinklers on this morning, or this year.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, again, everything wet so crispy.
On multiple fronts, yeah. But it needs it now. Charlize Theron is 50 today, the 1975, she was born in 1975, actress from South Africa. Mad Max, The Cider House Rules, Monster, born in Benoni, Transvaal, South Africa. One of those actresses that maybe you liked her more when she was just acting, and you didn't know as much about her.
As most of them, I think, we would feel that way about.
Yeah. David Duchovny, born in 1960, known for The X-Files and Californication.
He's got a new deal out now where I think it's on Hulu, but it's a UFO and conspiracy theory thing. Came out in 2025. I believe it's pretty much brand new, but watched a little of that last night. So it's funny, it's his birthday today. I guess that's how things work.
There you go. Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby, Canadian hockey player and an all-time great with the Pittsburgh Penguins, born in 1987. Man, Pittsburgh has had a star in hockey for 30 years now, right? I mean, the transition from Mario Lemieux to Sidney Crosby couldn't have been any smoother. I mean, that's like going from, what's a good sport comparison? I can't even come up with one. Like going from superstar quarterback to superstar quarterback and really not missing a beat.
Yeah, you got me.
It's what Green Bay did. Now, it was a bumpy transition, but it was going from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Like, no drop-off.
That was a smooth transition, pretty much. I mean, Brett had to go elsewhere, but Aaron stepped right in.
Yeah, it was just uncomfortable for a while. Kyler Murray was born in 1997. That might make you feel a little old. Oh, this is a good one also. This is from a 901 number. West Tennessee, perhaps. David Robinson to Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
With big men in the middle for the San Antonio Spurs. That's what it was like with Sidney Crosby and Mario Lemieux. Kyler Murray, former Heisman Trophy winner. Played at the University of Oklahoma. Number 1 draft pick in the NFL. Born in Bedford, Texas. Do you remember the Kyler Murray story?
He was a heck of a baseball player, too. I know that.
Top 5 draft pick, taken, if I remember correctly, by the Oakland A's. I think he went number 4 overall. But he didn't sign. He just waited and waited and waited for the NFL draft to come around, and turns out to be the number 1 pick. In fact, he played his last year of college football after having been drafted. Made it clear that football was what he wanted to do. Although if you follow Kyler Murray, apparently video games are what he wants to do more than practice and prepare.
Practice.
Really talented guy.
Talking about practice.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's AI. Jalen Hurts is 27 years old today, born in 1998. Now you've quit preaching and gone to meddling. American football quarterback, won a championship at Alabama. Lost his job to Tua Tagovailoa, transferred to Oklahoma. Really good there. Super Bowl MVP just a year ago, born in Houston, Texas. Just kind of coincidence. There are a bunch of sports guys. There were not a bunch of good birthdays today. There just happened to be several in sports. Mike Trout. Some say the best player in baseball. Just have had trouble staying healthy. Outfielder for the Los Angeles Angels. Multiple times named the MVP in the big leagues. He is a massive human being.
He's pretty thick, yeah.
Mm-hmm. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Talking about transitions in sports. Not that kind of transitions, like the player-to-player transitions.
Transitions lenses, right.
Yeah. Not like Leah Thomas. Shaq Bully says Montana to Young.
That's a good one. Yeah, and Steve.
Yeah, there's certainly no
out.
drop-off. Yeah. Certainly no drop-off. Jeff in Grenada says, like Hendrick Motorsports going from Jeff Gordon to Jimmy Johnson. Jeff, I'm going to have to take your word for on that. Hey, great example. Not one that I ever would have come up with. John and Hurley says the transition from Joe DiMaggio to Mickey Mantle. Okay. There you go. You ever been to Florence, Italy?
I've not. No. Sounds like a great place to visit, though.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Man, it's been a long time. It's been
good cuisine and wine, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. It's been 25 years since I've been there. But the thing that dominates the skyline in Florence is the Duomo. The dome on the roof of the Florence Cathedral. Construction began on this day in 1420. Designed by Renaissance architect Filippo Brunelleschi.
I need one you more. Have that one, yeah.
Brunelleschi.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anyway, think about that. Build something in 1420 and 2025 looks just like it did when it was built. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Wake up! Wake up! Rise and shine!
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross.
Nice early morning surprise.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you on this Thursday morning, the 7th of August, on this day in 1782. Here comes the general. George Washington, commander of the Continental Army, creates 2 honorary badges of distinction and a badge of military merit, which is now the Purple Heart. It was the first time that military awards were presented to common soldiers. 1954, English runner Roger Bannister beats Australia's John Landy in the mile at the Empire Games in Vancouver. It was the first time that you had 2 men run a sub-4-minute mile in the same race. Your second Gulf of Tonkin resolution reference of the week? You get the Gulf of Tonkin in twice in 1 week, Lance. Yeah. You've done something.
That's history there.
Yeah, it is. 1964, Congress approved the Gulf of Tonkin resolution granting LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, the authority to assist any Southeast Asia nation facing communist aggression. It was the opening that he needed to bring the United States into the Vietnam conflict, which certainly became the Vietnam War. I was off on my math on this one. Not math, like my date memory. It was this day in 1990 that the United States deployed troops to Saudi Arabia, beginning Operation Desert Storm. Now, it would be much later into the year before that operation... I'm sorry, that was beginning Operation Desert Shield. Desert Storm would follow. 1992, the Orlando Magic signed their number 1 draft pick, the largest human that I have ever spent any time around, Shaquille, Big Aristotle, the Diesel, Shaq O'Neal.
That is a beast of a man.
Large man. And, brother, I got one more for you, and if my voice sounds a little lower or a little more gravelly this morning, it's because of this. I went down a rabbit hole on YouTube last night, and it was like midnight when it started.
It's easy to do, isn't it?
Oh. On this day in 1997, I bet you remember this. This day in 1997, Garth Brooks performed a free concert in New York City in Central Park. It was carried on HBO. It was an album that was later released, Garth Live from Central Park in the North Meadow of the park. Estimates range from 980,000 to 1 million people were there. Really big deal for country music. Really big deal. It was one of the points where the world kind of woke up to, oh, wow, there are a bunch of country music fans out there. And lest there be any doubt, Garth Brooks was a massive, massive star. But here's where I went down the rabbit hole. He had two special guests that played with him on stage that night. Don McLean, legend, and Billy Joel.
Another legend there.
Well, not only a legend,
maybe, but
I think I would disagree. I might say bigger, maybe even way bigger. But regardless, but in that city, I mean that's Billy Joel's town.
Yeah.
Long before Jay-Z claimed it, that was Billy Joel's place. And he came on stage and sang a song with Garth while sitting at the piano. And then Garth said, "Hey, would you sing one of your songs?" And it was funny. There was one moment where Garth looked at the crowd. He's like, "What's the deal? I've been busting my butt out here for the last hour," and he walks on stage and gets a bigger round of applause than anything I've gotten tonight. And I mean, people are just eating it out of the palm. But man, when Billy Joel starts in on New York State of Mind, whoo,
he lit it up.
And by the way, Garth was not trying to sell you on some new music. He was not trying to get you to believe in Chris Gaines at that point. I mean, it was play the hits. Calling Baton Rouge, Friends in Low Places, Unanswered Prayers, The Dance, Rodeo, Thunder Rolls. And then he rolls Billy Joel out for New York State of Mind and Don McLean out for American Pie.
Yeah, that's a winning lineup there.
That'll do. That is understanding what your audience wants and giving it to them.
Yeah, you're smart not to roll out Chris Gaines. That was a good call.
Yeah.
That was strange times.
So I watched and watched and watched on that.
That's
and
good.
Then, man, and so here's the rabbit hole. It went from that to other times he had played American Pie. I found a 1993 concert in the old Cowboys Stadium back when it was still in Arlington. No, Arlington's where it is now. Where was the old one?
I know it had that little pop top, roof opening, but it was. I can't remember exactly where it was. What was the name of the?
Anyway. And I eventually got to him doing the concert in Tiger Stadium at LSU, which got me into a football mindset. And I watched a half hour. I mean, the label on this was, "Here are some peaceful sounds for college football fans."
Irving, Texas, sorry.
Irving, thank you. Peaceful sounds for college football fans. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. There's going to be half an hour of crowd noise. And it was just big moment after big moment after big moment in stadiums all across the country. And at some point, I was like, I have to go to bed. I have to go to bed, yeah. And it wasn't quite that late, but it was late enough.
It was a nice little piece of history. 1974, people may remember this. The French-born Philippe Petit, he walked on the high wire between the newly built twin trade centers in New York City. That's 1,350 feet above the ground. He was arrested, but you're curious. Like, he was like, "Why are you arresting me? I was just walking the tightrope." But think about it. How did he get up there, set up a tightrope, walk it, get back down, and then they go, "Hey, you're arrested." He's like, "Okay, you didn't know this was happening?
You could have done it before I went up. I mean, saved me a little heartache here." But
at least they let the guy get his award, I guess. And you remember the Love Canal, the connection between, what was it, Erie and Ontario? I think that was the Ontario and Erie, the lake. You had the Love Canal disaster. The thing that got me about this one is you have this canal called the Love Canal, and the company that got caught dumping all the chemicals and plastics and everything in there was called the Hooker Company. So you can't make that up, man. So, So anyway, it's good. It's safe now. But back in the old days, that was a big disaster, and it was basically an abandoned canal between the two lakes. It just dumped stuff everywhere. Became a Superfund site. Like 20 million. I think it was the largest settlement in the U.S. as far as that kind of stuff for class action at the time.
Wow,
big thing there.
After a homemade bomb was found and detonated in Lafayette County back in June, law enforcement announced earlier this week, Tuesday, that an arrest has been made. Christina Laureen Willis, 27 years old, of Batesville, was taken into custody and is being held at the Panola County Jail. She will be transported to the Lafayette County Detention Center at a later date. So back on June 20th, the Lafayette County Sheriff's Office responded to a report of a suspicious package discovered on a vehicle. The package was removed by the intended victim and turned over to law enforcement for further investigation. 3 days later, on June 23rd, the Sheriff's Office requested assistance from the Tupelo Bomb Squad and the ATF and Explosives Unit. Upon examination, bomb techs confirmed the package contained a live, homemade explosive device, which was rendered safe in a secure area. As a joint investigation between local, state, and federal agencies unfolded, law enforcement was led to a home on Highway 35 South in Panola County. Through a search warrant, investigators located evidence of bomb-making material, or as they might say, material, homemade high explosive substances, firearms, and narcotics. Always got to mix narcotics in. Another explosive device was found inside the residence, and it was safely detonated by bomb technicians. Willis was arrested and charged with attempted murder and planting a bomb or explosive device. Expected to face more charges after the case is presented to a federal grand jury. I think we're going to try and keep up with the details on this one.
That's crazy, isn't it?
What a story. Got more news for you after the break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Here we go. Now back to Mornings with Richard Cross.
now that's entertainment.
Thanks for spending part of your morning with us. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Glad to have you along for the ride today. We've got guests coming up a little bit later this morning. Mike Hurst will join us, former U.S. Attorney and chair of the Mississippi GOP, the Mississippi Republican Party. He will be by in studio at about 7:20 this morning. And then at 8:20, we've got a guest that has been a colleague of ours for a long time. He is retiring. Rick Mize was the longtime general manager of the Oxford SuperTalk Mississippi and Q105 radio station. He worked for a long time on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. He's been part of the Oxford business community. And he has one of the coolest radio journeys of certainly anybody that I know. And we're going to visit with Rick. We, from a company standpoint, and others who know him and are friends with him around this area, going to go to retirement event for him a little bit later this afternoon. I guess a party is what you call that, not just an event, but a party. And I wanted to visit with Rick some on the radio. I think he's got some cool stories to tell, and we'll look forward to that coming up a little bit later this morning. Life member of the Country Music Association, National Programmer of the Year on multiple occasions. Good stuff from Rick Mize coming up. An apparent murder-suicide resulted in a Mississippi police officer losing his life on Tuesday afternoon. Pike County Sheriff Wally Jones confirmed yesterday that a Macomb police officer, Jason Blake, was pronounced deceased when emergency personnel responded to a home on Cole Thomas Road in Macomb. Preliminary investigation found that Clay Paulk forcibly entered a home that Blake and a woman by the name of Nikki Wilson were in. Blake, who was off duty at the time, had reportedly responded to the home after receiving a call for help. Paulk is said to have fired a shotgun at both Blake and Wilson before using a handgun to take his own life. Blake and Paulk were dead when deputies arrived. Wilson was transported to Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center, and she is expected to make a full recovery. Paulk's vehicle was recovered a short distance from the scene, and here's the line that you were expecting. He and Wilson had previously been in a relationship. Blake had been a law enforcement officer for 16 years, including time with the Pike County Sheriff's Department and the Wesson Police Department. Tragic story there. I don't even know that it's fair to qualify this as a love triangle, maybe just a jealousy thing. But one of the boys in blue gone too soon. A couple of heavy stories there. Let me give you a little bit lighter one. Give you some good news, Lance. You want good news?
Sure, yeah.
We got good news.
Some good news.
Entergy announced a round of scholarships yesterday for college students who are either studying in or are from the state of Mississippi. 7 recent high school graduates heading off to college got $5,000 scholarships from the Integrated Energy Company's Community Power Scholarship Program. These are children of Entergy employees in Mississippi who have worked to showcase their dedication in the community, school, and the workplace. Meredith Hawkins of Jackson headed to Mississippi State. Alexis Hunter of Jackson headed to Ole Miss. Grace Gardner of Madison headed to Colorado State. Beautiful campus. Madeline Susi of Madison headed to Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Ryan Wu, also of Madison, is headed to Duke. Alyssa Norsworthy of Macomb headed to Southwest Mississippi Community College, and Desmond Breland of Sandy Hook going to Delta Technical College. Haley Forsackerly said, these remarkable individuals demonstrate unwavering commitment and effort in shaping a bright future and fostering resilient communities. The Community Power Scholarships will support them in taking the next steps of their educational journey. Giving back is a core value for Entergy, and we applaud these young leaders for their work. The Community Power Scholarship Program has provided more than $3.6 million in financial assistance to over 730 children of the company's employees over the last 20 years. So congratulations. $5,000 scholarships, no joke.
No, that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not at a private school like Duke, but it'll go a long way at most of them.
Well, I mean, if your tuition at Duke's, I don't know, I'm just pulling the number out of the air, $75,000 a year, only having to pay $70 instead of $75.
It makes a dent, yeah.
It makes a dent.
Well, you never know, a kid getting into Duke. Probably, maybe he had some other academic offers that came his way as well.
One would think possibly so. I mean, $5,000 scholarship goes a whole lot farther than the $500 scholarship I got, which I was thankful for at the time. I was certainly thankful for that. All right, your morning sports headlines are brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort, your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. It's all at Pearl River Resort. You've got 3 weeks left, maybe 4 weekends left to enjoy Geyser Falls Water Park. And, man, you want to talk about perfect. Like, when it's 97, 98, 99, 100 degrees, even a water park's hot. Like, even a water park. But, man, when it's 91, 92, it's not that miserable hot outside. You want to talk about a perfect weekend for the water park. You got that at Geyser Falls. Learn more online at pearlriverresort.com. So most people's sports attention right now is focused on the countdown to the start of the college football season. But we got some men's basketball news yesterday for Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Conference schedule announced. We're only a couple of months away from the start of the men's college basketball season. Neither Ole Miss nor Mississippi State have announced their full schedule yet, still working on finalizing some things in the early parts of the schedule. But we now know the SEC games for the Rebels. Coming off a Sweet 16 appearance, conference play will begin on the road January 3rd at Oklahoma, and then they will come home for their SEC opener against Arkansas. Chris Beard, entering his third year in Oxford, will then prepare his squad for a January 10th home game against Missouri, then a road game against Georgia, and a road game on the 17th of January against Mississippi State. Chris Jans is entering his fourth year at Mississippi State. Bulldogs tip off SEC action on the road. They'll be in Austin, headed to Tejas to start the Hoops conference slate on January 3rd against the Longhorns. Their home opener comes against Oklahoma the following Saturday. Actually, it's a midweek game. Then Mississippi State hits the road to play Oklahoma. Then back home for Alabama in the midweek and Ole Miss on the weekend. The first road test of the second half of SEC play for Mississippi State from the Sandy and John Black Pavilion. Little Valentine's Day battle between the Rebels and the Bulldogs in Oxford.
I'll say one thing with all the additions in the SEC. Basketball, the schedule is just imposing if you look at it.
Oh,
golly. I mean, if you just sit back and go, we got to play all these teams.
Find the easy game.
Yeah, where's an easy one in here? There isn't any.
It's like, well, there's Auburn. They're good. Tennessee, good. Kentucky, good. Arkansas, good. Ole Miss, good. State, good. South Carolina, up and down. Florida, good. Missouri, anything about Missouri? 2 years ago, they went 0-18 in the SEC. Last year, they were back in the NCAA tournament. The year before they went 0-18, NCAA tournament. It's every sport. Every sport. Good morning. Love listening and watching you guys. However, I've noticed that Lance hasn't gotten any camera time in the last few weeks. Is there a reason?
No, I just ain't much to show, huh?
Lance presses the buttons. Hey, maybe he's having a bad hair morning.
No, not at all.
Don't be offensive.
No.
Yeah. Glad to be with you. Mississippi Lottery update. That was your sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. We are back right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Switch on.
Mornings with Richard Cross. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Once again, last night, no winner on the Powerball. Lotto America, there was no jackpot winner. A ticket purchased in Vermilion. Wait, hold on a second. There was a jackpot winner. Lotto America, we finally had
10 years.
How long?
I don't know, but it feels like 10 years. I've been watching this climb for like 2-3 years now.
The note that I was looking at, I think, had gotten so used to saying no jackpot winner that right after that it said jackpot winner. Ticket purchased in Vermilion, South Dakota matched 5 of 5 lotto balls and the star ball to win the $4.19 million jackpot that had a cash value of almost $2 million. So it resets to $2 million with an estimated cash value of $900,000.
I bet whoever collects the taxes on that was happy there was a winner. Somebody got over $2 million in taxes, yeah. But hey, at least it was somebody other than California or one of the usual winners.
Absolutely. No jackpot winner on Powerball last night, which means Saturday night's drawing $482 million. The cash value almost $219 million. Wednesday night's numbers were, these were no bueno. No shot. 15, 27, 43, 45, 53. Not a combination anybody was writing down on their own.
Yeah, none of those are my favorite numbers.
And the machine didn't punch out a good one. The Powerball was 9 with the multiplier of 2. Mega Millions, your next drawing's on Friday. It's $166 million, $75,200,000 is the cash value. You got those new scratch-off games that debuted this week. Cash on the spot, it's $1, and you can win up to $5,000. Cruising the Coast, $2, you can win up to $25,000 there, and then Break the Bank, a $5 ticket loaded with chances to win up to $100,000. So we got the My Lottery Dream Home scratch-off out there. It's a $20 scratch-off. A Richland man won $5,000 on a ticket that he got from Express Store in Grenada. You had another Waynesboro player that won $3,000 on 3 tickets from Lakeside Food Mart in Waynesboro as well. That's your Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, mslottery.com. Told you earlier that Mike Hurst is going to join us about half an hour from right now. Look forward to visiting with the chair of the Republican Party in Mississippi, and Rick Mize, the retiring general manager, and did a little bit of everything in radio for, about the last 45 years. He's going to join us, hopefully, with some stories. Looking forward to that. C-Spire text line. Well, that's not nice, George. Lance got that face for radio going, he says.
I guess.
That's not very nice. Gina wants more of you on the picture screen.
Yeah.
We'll get you.
Well, it's when you're not talking, it's kind of choppy to move it back and forth. So I just let you have it.
Richard and Lance, thanks for the Rod Stewart tickets. My wife and I had a great time. Congratulations. Glad you had a good time. Must have been a good show. We've gotten a few thank yous on that.
Well, I didn't know Rod's still putting it out. That's one of the iconic guys at that time, still rocking it out. We've lost so many. It's great to know that there's still some that are out there performing and bringing great shows, for the money and the time you invest. That's all I can assure you, that's what they want. And I imagine Rod Stewart's excited that he's still able to do it. And the fans are like, wow, what a great show. Thank you for the compliments, though. That was one I would have loved to have gotten to myself.
Thomas in Greenwood, and he lives in meme world. He's got the memes.
He's got some good ones.
He says, Apple promising to invest $150 billion a year when their entire annual profit is $92 billion, and they only invested $9 billion last year. They were just keeping the powder dry. Thomas, Apple is sitting on a boatload of cash. And you certainly know that profit does not equal investment numbers. He says the math isn't mathing. Does the math work for you?
Well, I'm not. I saw the meme a little while ago, and I was laughing at it. But yeah, I'd have to dig in a little bit more before I would speak intelligently on what Apple is up to and what promises they've made to investors and such. $105 billion a year, annual profit of $92 billion, and they only invested $9 billion last year. Yeah, those numbers wouldn't add up. But again, I would need to dig into the fundamentals there. Companies today, multinationals, are not quite as straightforward as profit and loss.
You're saying that their accounting practices might be a little
more convoluted to figure out.
There you go. Little more convoluted. That's a good way to say it. 8 o'clock hour coming up. Trump's tariffs go into effect around the world today. In fact, they went into effect around the world last night at midnight. What does that mean? We'll get into that to start the 7 o'clock hour coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. News is next.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
People want to hear the truth, man. That's what we're going to do.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Seven o'clock hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough. If you're a business owner, you know that. There are things that are some things that are more difficult than others, and sometimes it's the paperwork, the back end stuff that can be tough. So if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. If you're curious what that means, what that plan might look like, give them a call, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. That's MWGEmployerServices.com. Let's start this hour off as we begin a little bit of a conversation about tariffs, some of those big tariffs going into place today, with a clip from Fox Business yesterday. Larry Kudlow had Rand Paul on, and they were talking about the economic impact of Trump's tariffs and the agenda of that. Listen to this interaction.
Story has been very rare. And in truth, we showed the tariff effects, front page of the Wall Street Journal, their story. The tariff affects billions in revenue, but no economic earthquake. I mean, we haven't had a tariff recession. We haven't had a tariff inflation.
But I guess the question I would ask you, Larry, is they're bragging that they think they can bring in $2 trillion in revenue over 10 years. If someone came to you and said, hey, Larry, I've got this great idea for a value-added tax. It'll bring in $2 trillion over the next 10 years. You'd shake your head and say, we don't want to be Europeans. We're not for that. And we've never been for adding a sales tax without removing some other tax. So people all the time say, oh, we're going to get rid of the income tax. Sure, present that to me, and I'm for getting rid of the income tax in exchange for a tariff. But that's not what we're getting. We're getting $2 trillion in taxes on top of all the other taxes that we have. So ultimately, conservatives have to decide, do they like taxes because they're Donald Trump's taxes, or do we still say that we don't want more revenue coming out of the productive economy and going to government, that we want to balance the budget through reducing spending, not increasing taxes? That's still a fundamental question.
Well, that's Rand Paul, and that's an interesting perspective. Like you can dress it up, you can put a dress on it, you can put lipstick on it, you can put makeup on it, but ultimately it's still a tax. And are you for more taxes or not for more taxes, whether they come in the form of an income tax, a sales tax, an ad valorem tax, a property tax, or a tariff? because it is still a tax. And it's one of the points that Thomas has made over and over on the C Spire text line of, hey, this is a tax that's coming out of the American people's pocket. There is, Lance, we have not talked about this. There's a phrase that Rand Paul used where he called it a value-added tax, sometimes known as a VAT. And I don't think that has been, at least not part of the mainstream conversation with regard to tariffs. Now, it's different than what we are seeing with what's going into effect today for India, for Canada, and other places. But here's the thing with a value-added tax. So imports come into the United States, and if there's a tariff on those, countries have to pay that, and maybe ultimately it gets passed down to the consumer.
Well, it's going to, yeah, it definitely will. That's who's going to pay it, is the consumer.
Probably.
Well, I mean, ultimately,
there are some companies that are going to eat some of that, but generally speaking, prices are going to be adjusted up to cover that additional tariff cost, and it ends up with the consumer. But this is the part that I think nobody's talking about. Most of the places where we ship items, even if there is no tariff or a small tariff on our exports, most countries add what they call a VAT, or a value-added tax, and it's added like at the point of purchase.
Well, everybody pays a VAT. I mean, sales tax is going to be applied at the final sales point. You know, in other words, the consumer bears that. VAT tax in every stage of that widget getting to you.
Yeah.
The companies and everybody has something to pay into that. Ultimately, you're going to pay that, the consumer, just like you would with a tariff.
Yeah, but the difference is our sales tax numbers, and they range, they're all across the board, but across the United States, sales tax numbers average between 6 and 7% across the entire United States. When you look at the VAT that is going on our exports, especially in European countries, but really all over the world, that number's more like 15 to 20%. And in some places, as much as 50%. And so when Donald Trump talks about leveling the playing field on international trade, if you want to call it that, some of that is just balancing, like if there's a 15% tariff that gets applied to a product that is coming from Germany to the United States, that's really getting the products that they are sending to us on par or on a level playing field with what we're sending to them, where they're popping a 15% tax on it once it gets into their market.
Sure. Well, and again, I mean, over about 170, 180 countries use VAT taxes or consumption taxes in some form. I'm not a fan of them because it's almost like everybody that touches the product gets paid, whereas the sales tax, again, like you said, is significantly lower. In most cases, it may be on par with some, but I mean, generally, you're going to pay much higher because so many more people are touching the product, and then at the end, the consumer is going to pay. I mean, Thomas is 100% right. What you're hoping is that revenues increase, pay increases, and you don't notice the additional tax or inflation or whatever you want to call it on the item. But you know, as it is now, we're all feeling it because we're in a deficit mode. I mean, the country's in major debt.
Well, so, and to your point, I mean, you know, widget, okay. Let's use the apparel industry as an example. Let's say you got an American company that sells pants, and they get their pants made in Taiwan. Well, the people that so the company that sells the pants places the initial order for their manufacturer in Taiwan to make the pants. So the manufacturer in Taiwan gets paid for the pants. So there's your first transaction. And then they ship the pants to the American company. And then the American company turns around and sells the pants to retailers. So there's your second financial transaction. And if the pants cost, let's say they cost $10 to make, So the American company that orders the pants originally pays $10 for them, and then they sell them to their retailer for $20. They've made money. There's your second transaction. And then the retailer turns around and marks them up and sells them to the end user for $40. It's like the product itself didn't cost anywhere near that to be made, but everybody's got to get paid along the way. To your point about, whoever touches the widget got to make their money.
And that's the big difference in sales tax and that or consumption is that everybody along the way is footing the bill for the production and distribution of that item. Whereas in a sales tax, it's just you're going to have all the money is going to be paid at the back end when the consumer purchases it. And like I said, there's not but a handful of countries that don't have a VAT tax. USA, right. Greenland, a handful of African countries, and not many. So most countries use VAT tax, whereas we are not one that employs that directly. So, but it is an indirect tax. That's instead of a direct tax. It's just how you split the hair, I guess.
President Trump's wide-ranging tariffs went into effect at 12:01 Eastern last night / this morning as the economic fallout of his months of threatening them is surfacing in visible damage to the economy, writes the Associated Press. The import taxes will reach a level not seen in the U.S. in almost 100 years. With Americans expected to pay an average of 18% more for imported products, highest rate since 1934, according to the Budget Lab at Yale. Companies are dealing with tariffs in various ways. More than 60 countries and the European Union are facing tariff rates of 15% or higher, including India, who got popped yesterday by the United States because of their purchase of Russian oil. Trump signed an executive order yesterday to place an additional 25% tariff on India for its purchases of Russian oil, bringing the combined tariffs imposed by the United States on its ally, India, to 50%. Those tariffs will go into effect in 21 days. Mike Hurst is the chair of the GOP in Mississippi. He'll join us coming up next on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
What are we going to do? Rise and shine with information and insight.
Check it out.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I was 3 days short of pulling out of Kingsport. I was headed down to Houston town. Had the guitar packed in a burlap sack or exploiting my country sound. I bypassed Jackson, bypassed Memphis by the time I got to Arkansas. I sold my car and that black guitar for anything cool and tall.
Glad to be with you on this Thursday morning. It's the 7th of August. The weekend is just around the corner. When we get to this Saturday, we're going to be 3 weeks from the opening Saturday, the first full Saturday of the college football season. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV. Some of you have asked about podcasts, and there's a technical issue that we've been trying to work through. They are automatically uploaded, and we're trying to figure that out and get them back online for you with all of the shows from SuperTalk. Mike Hurst joins us now. He is a former U.S. attorney and is chair of the Mississippi Republican Party. Mr. Hurst, good morning. It's been a little while. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Richard. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Absolutely. Let's pick up, if we can, to start things off with what we were talking about before the break, and that's some of these wide-ranging tariffs that went into effect officially at 12:01 Eastern Time this morning, late last night, if you prefer to look at it that way. And these have got, now that well, I guess specifically with the executive order yesterday, 21 days until they actually go into effect. We have not seen some of what many economists and experts and partisans thought was going to happen. Rampant inflation, some of the other doomsday scenarios that they've predicted. But there are some signs that economically maybe things are slowing down a little bit, most recently with the jobs report that was adjusted and President Trump was quite frustrated about earlier this week. So as we sit here, 7 months or so into this administration, this tariff policy has been talked about and talked about and talked about. Finally, it's going into effect. What's your thought when you look at this from a conservative politics standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, what we have to look at is the history. Under the Biden administration, our trade deficit soared to $1.2 trillion in 2024. We could not sustain that continued trajectory if we expected our country to do well and our people to do well. You know, our middle class was sold out. Our rural small towns, like where I grew up, the manufacturing base was decimated. But for Trump stepping in, doing things, as you stated, critics have just lambasted him about, but stepping in and stepping up for Americans and putting America first again, this is what it takes. And we see it in the results. We see it in the trade deals he's done with the UK, with the European Union, with Japan. I mean, yeah, the critics can keep complaining and saying what they want, but the president is bringing jobs back to America and manufacturing back to America.
You know, the interesting thing, or one of the interesting things to me about this is, from the outset, Donald Trump admitted that there may be some short-term pain. What we didn't know, and honestly, probably what we don't know, is what short-term means. Like, if you have to define that. Because I think we all know if you do things that are difficult financially, it takes some time. You know, unless you win that $460 million Powerball on Saturday night, which, you know, there's a chance for all of us, I guess. If you may, even like within your own personal finances, if you say, hey, we're going to attack this debt or we're going to invest in this thing, the results don't happen overnight.
That's right.
How long can the American economy or Trump voters be patient to allow this to really play out?
Well, I think it is a long-term strategy, and I think it's the right strategy. And it's because we have become so used to cheap things, and cheap things at the expense of our neighbor, at the expense of our friends who can't find those manufacturing jobs anymore. For too long, politicians have sold those jobs and those livelihoods to the highest bidder overseas, and we've been taken advantage of as a country. And that stops with this president. This president is putting respect in the global affairs of America again, is putting respect to the American people. And again, we have to balance, you know, what is it worth for your neighbor to be able to have a job down the street and be able to raise his family and his kids in a community where people come together and there are jobs. I mean, yeah, there might be short-term consequences, absolutely. But anything that is worth doing is going to have some of those short-term consequences. And I think at the end of the day, America and the American people are going to be better off for this.
To me, the bigger question, though, with regard to the timeline is we get to midterms in a hurry, right?
Yep.
When Inauguration Day happened, we're like, all right, 2 years from now, you've got new, midterm elections that will have happened, I guess, 2 months prior to that.
That's right.
And, man, that clock ticks fast.
Yep.
7 months in at this point, so we're now, 17 months?
17 months. Yep.
I mean, that happens fast, and so you have to try to get things done quickly. And the appetite for a long-range plan that takes a long time to get results, we're not great with patience.
No, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do something that is long-term, that is generational building like this is, you have to have a little discomfort up front. And right now, we have to remember, the American people have to remember, during COVID, when we were trying to get medicine and things from overseas, we were so dependent on other countries to provide that stuff. We have become so dependent on other countries providing defense-related technology and weapon systems. If we continue to offshore that type of stuff and not do it here, while at the same time being taxed with tariffs by other countries and not having that reciprocal relationship, we're going to continue to go down in history as a failed country. And that's what President Trump is standing against. And that's what he campaigned on, and that's what he's delivering his first 7 months in office.
When you think about global affairs, and we'll talk about some Mississippi stuff coming up here in just a couple of minutes, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, what India is doing with regard to, are they going to keep buying Russian oil or not? What's going on in Israel with Gaza? It's like there are these multiple high wire acts that are going on, and there's no net, and there's no safety harness, and you're trying to balance all of these things at the same time. it really is a tightrope, and there's not a lot of margin for error.
No, there's not. But let's keep in mind this. In the first 7 months of this administration, they have acted. They have bombed Iran.
That is true.
They have put those penalties on India for doing what they did. Look at the last 4 years. Nothing, and I mean nothing, Richard, was done with any consequences to any nation that went against America. You know, the Biden administration said there were all these red lines and things that other countries shouldn't do that were not in the interest of America. But when those countries did those things, the Biden administration did not lift a finger to enforce or to hold those countries accountable. That's changing. And you can see it on the global stage. America is respected again, and that's what we need.
Going back to the midterm conversation, that, again, now 17 months away, we talked about this yesterday. There was a reaction from Democrats after Donald Trump won by some of the high-level talkers that, the Democrat Party just learned a lesson. And we've got to recalibrate the message and see some of the things that Americans voted on when they voted for Donald Trump and change their messaging and change some of their strategy.
Did they say that? Because I haven't seen that, Richard.
That's it. They said that immediately after on some of the shows, like, hey, we got to come up with a better message. But that lasted for about 3 weeks.
Right.
And then they have gone right back to Trump is bad, Trump is evil, if you support this, you're a Nazi, and so on and so forth. What is the strategy of Democrats right now?
If I knew that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I'd be at, some think tank bloviating on amazing things. Look, here's the deal. Not only have they not fulfilled what they said they were going to do and try to recalibrate and get back on track, they've gone even further to the left. I mean, they just elected a socialist in the Democratic primary of the largest city in America who wants to turn everything, all private industry, into government-run things. I mean, that's what they're doubling down on. And if their leaders
then Elizabeth Warren yesterday or a couple of days ago joins Mandami and says, hey, this is the way forward. This is the message for the Democrat Party going forward.
Look, I love it. I hope Elizabeth Warren keeps doubling down on socialism. I hope AOC continues to be the leader of that party, because if they do, we keep winning elections. Because at the end of the day, that party is all about more government control, less freedom, higher taxes. And the Republican Party is absolutely the opposite.
Sean Hannity had Stephen A. Smith on as a guest a couple of days ago. Stephen A. Smith, the sports guy who's kind of dived into politics a little bit. He's a loud talker and is sometimes entertaining. And Hannity made some reference to AOC as the leader of the party or whatever, Mandami, Chuck Schumer, whomever. And Stephen A. Smith pushed back. He's like, that's not the leader of the party. He said, who is? And he said, that's the problem. There is no leader of the Democrat Party right now.
Yeah.
Will that emerge?
Yeah. Elizabeth Warren, AOC, Bernie Sanders. That is the National Democratic Party.
We'll pull it in a little closer to home. We'll talk some Mississippi politics. We had special elections earlier this week with very low voter turnout. We'll get Mike Hurst's reaction to that. He's the chair of the Republican Party in the state of Mississippi, former U.S. attorney as well. More coming up. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Hey, how's it going, man?
The news you need.
Every 10, 15 minutes, there's something.
The talk you love.
They really talk about the things that matter. I'm into all that stuff.
Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mike Hurst is my guest, chair of the Mississippi Republican Party, former U.S. attorney, practicing attorney as well. Have you ever worked as a judge?
Never. Do not aspire.
Okay.
When do you actually quit practicing to be an attorney and become one?
You never stop practicing. We're always practicing. Practice makes perfect.
Well, I asked that because I suppose it's all intertwined. Your role as chair of the Republican Party and also a former U.S. attorney, but there are a couple of things that are happening A couple of conversations. You've got the redistricting conversation in Texas, and we just went through a redistricting saga here in Mississippi with some of what was said had to happen by the courts. When you see what the Attorney General in Texas is doing, Ken Paxton, for the legislators in Texas that kind of bailed on the vote to try and block that redistricting plan from happening, what is the likelihood that that appeal to the Supreme Court in Texas gets upheld, and some of those legislators are removed from office?
Man, you're asking me a legal question, Richard, that I have not read the briefs. I have not read the opinions. What I can tell you is I like the idea. I like the concept, and here's why. If you are elected, if the Democratic representatives are elected by the people to do a job, and they refuse to show up and do that job, how is that not abandoning your post? It's not like they accidentally missed work. They got sick from work. They affirmatively chose to run away from the job that they were elected to do. And if that's not abandonment, I don't know what is.
If you did that in the military, you could be discharged, court-martialed.
Private sector, you're fired.
If you did that in a private sector job, you would be terminated.
Absolutely.
But if you do that as an elected official, well, we'll see what happens. But the second part of that, so the larger redistricting conversation brings up this idea that so many people have thrown out, some at the congressional level, about a midterm census, redoing the census and not counting illegals. And on the surface, I completely agree with that. But I think there's a constitutional question there, because doesn't the United States Constitution say that all persons shall be counted, not all legal citizens shall be counted? What's the when you look at that? I mean, that is a serious court battle if we actually go down that road, isn't it?
I think so. I'll have to pull out my Constitution and remind myself.
I thought you had that memorized.
I do. But yeah, I think what the Democratic strategy has been over the last 30, 40 years is exactly what you said, which is open up our borders, flood in as many illegal aliens as you can, have them populate, have them counted so that Democrats have a permanent majority in the United States of America. And fortunately, this president has stopped that. We're looking at right now, Richard, we're looking at the first time, potentially the first time in 50 years of American history that we have net migration out of the United States.
Yeah.
When the last 4 years we've had the biggest illegal immigration into the United States, the president has reversed those fortunes, has secured our border, and now we are not seeing our country overrun and invaded like we did during the Biden administration.
And it was the single biggest issue in the election.
Absolutely.
And Donald Trump has done what he said he was going to do on that particular item.
And I will tell you, Mississippi led on this charge. When I was U.S. Attorney, we had the largest single-day immigration raid of multiple sites in one state in our nation's history. Go back almost 17 years ago, we had the largest single-day immigration raid at one facility in Mississippi. We have been leading on this issue in Mississippi because Mississippians prefer their politicians, their elected officials, to actually enforce the laws that their representatives passed. And we haven't seen that from Democrats in decades.
Turnout was really low on Tuesday. It was largely incumbents that stayed in those seats. There was a focus on DeSoto County. There was a focus on areas of the Pine Belt. What did you make of the results from Tuesday's special elections? No runoffs. Next time we're going to have an election will be in November for these seats.
That's right. Yeah, I think I expected what happened. I mean, in these special elections, you generally have low turnout, and normally the person who wins those elections are the ones who can actually turn their voters out. And I think you saw that whether it was in District 1 up in DeSoto County, District 42 down in Jones County, District 44 down in Hattiesburg. I mean, you saw those individuals turn out. What I'm most interested in, I think, come November are the general elections in District 2 up in the DeSoto County area. We got a great candidate, Charlie Hoots, former alderman of South Haven, former deputy sheriff up there. And then in District 11, we have Kendall Pruitt as a businessman in DeSoto County running against an incumbent Democrat. So I would really like to see those seats being taken by Republicans.
What did the results in District 42 say to you? Where that's where Don Hartness won, I think, and did so with like 70% of the vote. That was a little bit of a strange election because of some familial issues that were going on with the candidates there. What though does that say to you about Don Hartness winning in the way that he did? Look,
I know Don. Don's a good conservative. I know Robin. Robin's a good conservative. I think at the end of the day, Don ran on local issues that people in Jones County and the surrounding area cared about. And Robin did a good job, but at the end of the day, Don got more people to the vote to the polls than Robin did, and pulled that one out.
Obviously, at a local level, there is still a significant amount of sway carried by Chris McDaniel. He was supporting Don Hartness, and some of Chris McDaniel's supporters were obviously there supporting. What about at a larger level? What's the level of influence that exists at this point for Chris McDaniel, who has tried and failed for some larger offices?
I can't really answer that. What I can tell you is I think if those candidates who are running for office just go back to the basics, go back to the Mississippi Republican Party's platform, and if you run on that platform, I can almost guarantee you will be elected, because Mississippians want conservative policies. And if you look at those who were elected Tuesday, those individuals ran on that platform.
There was an announcement by Brooke Rollins earlier this week, the Secretary of Agriculture, that a waiver was being issued for 6 states to put a ban on SNAP benefits for the purchase of unhealthy foods, sugary drinks, candies, and other kind of junk food that goes on in there. Mostly southern states, but I think Colorado was mixed in with that as well. Do you see that being a road that Mississippi looks to go down as well? We know that there are a lot of people that rely on SNAP benefits in the state of Mississippi, but we also know that the health outcomes in our state are not particularly good.
Yeah, I think it's a good policy to have, and here's why. If government is providing assistance to low-income individuals for food, and if the food they're able to buy with that government assistance is terrible food that just makes them unhealthy, and then those same individuals are relying upon government health care to make them better, why would we spend money on such a terrible, vicious cycle that only hurts our fellow citizens? Absolutely. I think they should ban that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll have the governor on Wednesday of next week, and that's one of the things that we'll ask him about, how closely he's watching that and what effect it's having in other states. The economic development announcements continue to come. That has been, in my mind, and I think you would agree here, the hallmark of the Tate Reeves
absolutely
gubernatorial administration. That has been his focus from day one. Similar to what we were talking about with Donald Trump. Trump said, we're going to focus first on the border, and they've acted on that. Since he was running for the governorship here in Mississippi, Tate Reeves said, we're going to focus on economic development. That's what they have done. Is there a slowdown coming in your mind, or are these deals going to keep on coming?
Look, I know Tate Reeves. I've known him since college. When he is laser focused and he's locked in, he's unstoppable. And I think we've seen that over the last 6 years. As you said, he has made his focus, his priority, making sure that we have more jobs than we have people ready to work. And we've seen that with the influx of businesses, the influx of new manufacturing facilities, the influx of all these jobs coming to Mississippians, and the way it helps Mississippians and increases their good quality of life that we have here, it just makes our state better. So yeah, he's killing it right now. Just like President Trump made those promises delivered, our governor, Tate Reeves, made promises, and he is still delivering.
Your crystal ball does not have to be crystal clear. It can be a little
Hold on, let
cloudy.
me get it out and shine it a little bit. Go ahead.
Well, it's where I'm headed. It can be a little cloudy, and we can still see into that crystal ball looking ahead to January when the next legislative session comes into play, and know that education is going to be a huge conversation. Jason White at the Neshoba County Fair, he was not hiding behind any words. He was not masking what his priority is, and that's universal school choice. That is not something that the lieutenant governor has been in favor of. What's that fight going to look like? And you've referenced the Republican Party platform. Where does the party stand on universal school choice?
The party platform is clear. We are in favor of parents and children having the freedom to get the education that a child needs. At the end of the day, the priority, the goal is to educate children. So why in the world would we be doing anything else and directing our money to institutions or to adults when the focus should always be on the child?
And the debate has been about where the money goes and should it follow if it goes to private schools. We'll see. That's going to be a big conversation. Mike Hurst, thanks as always for coming in. Great visiting with you.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate the time.
Mike Hurst, my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We'll wrap it up with you coming up next.
Sister Lucille says you want to go.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Coffee, conversations, and clarity. What a great way to start your Mississippi day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
C-Spire text line open to you, 601-879-4395. Looking for game-changing technology? Then you need C-Spire on your team. 5G wireless, fiber home internet, and business IT solutions built as tough as your defense. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. Hey, who was the guitar solo there? That wasn't Jimmy, was it?
That was Joe Bonamassa.
Joe Bonamassa. What should I know about him?
Well, when he was about 3 years old, he was doing that. So, yeah, he's definitely
bit of a prodigy.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's grab some from the C-Spire text line. Andy says, at least with Don Hartness, we should have another supporter of universal school choice in the Senate. Okay. SNAP and food stamps should be healthy food, fresh food, and meats, nothing pre-cooked, chips, sugary soda, like United Healthcare's U-Card. I'm not familiar with that.
Well, there's two. You got SNAP benefits and you got TANF. TANF you can get a cash advance, or you can get, if you have cash in there, they're used by. You have an EBT card. Both are accessed that way. SNAP benefits do not provide you a cash advance in most cases. At least in Mississippi, they don't. However, TANF funds do. So how are you going to stop them if they go get cash and decide to go?
Yeah, you probably can't do that.
So, I'm just saying.
But you can limit.
It's a great idea and a great concept. But as long as you're allowing cash advances, you're not going to control what anybody buys with it.
Yeah. I threw out a poll a day and a half ago. It was really simple. It was on the Mornings Cross X feed. Still want to call it Twitter. If you're not following, we'd love for you to do so at Mornings Cross. And the question was pretty simple. Would you support Mississippi seeking a waiver to ban SNAP purchases of sugary drinks, candy, and other junk foods? 221 of you voted. 90% said yes. So it was an overwhelming majority, 90-10, the final results in that vote. Yes, you would support. My computer is being taken over. Houston, I love you, man, but
we've got a power issue. We've got a power issue in Oxford, I think. So he's working vicariously through you, maybe.
I understand that, but he just took everything off my computer screen.
What you need, sir? I got you covered.
Mid-sentence. Yeah. Let's see here. Backup computer. Got it over here as well. Let me remind you about my friends at David Fisher Land Company. You can find them online at davidfisherland.com. Whether you're looking for a small tract of land for a home or a cabin or anything else that's going on, or you are looking for a big farm, like for row crops and the like, you you can check out our friends at davidfisherland.com. They've been in the land business, and that means brokerage and financing and lots of other stuff for about 40 years. They're located in the heart of the Mississippi Delta in Inverness, but they service all of Mississippi and all of Arkansas and all of Louisiana. David Fisher Land Company has 40 years of experience in farm and recreational land brokerage, land appraisals, and farm land management. So whether you're looking for 100 acres or several thousand, or maybe an equity share in hunting clubs from DeSoto County to the South Delta, David Fisher Land Company is ready to earn your business. And with customers across the Southeast, David Fisher Land Company is the perfect choice if you need to sell a piece of property. The website is davidfisherland.com. davidfisherland.com. David, Jack, Travis, they are all ready to help you. They'd love to help with your land needs. Do us a favor. Tell them you heard about them from us. David Fisher Land Company at davidfisherland.com. We were talking yesterday afternoon on Sports Talk about the fall coming up and those days where, it's a little cool. You can build a fire. Can you imagine having a little place that you got through David Fisher Land Company? You go out on a football Saturday, prop your feet up. Maybe you shoot some skeet.
Get you a Starlink,
too. Throw something on the grill, get that outside television working, prop your feet up, watch football all day. How good does that sound? Which, Lance, some people would say, oh, yeah, that's called hunting camp.
Yeah, you just got to get you some, one of those Starlinks right there and sit in the duck blind, watch football, bring a little mini Weber grill, have a big time. Done that several times, but not with the Starlink, but now you can have it 24/7.
Quick timeout, 8 o'clock hour on the way alongside Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard Cross. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
All night long. It was all we knew and easy to, so we wouldn't get it wrong. All we did was bend the string like, hey, down in Joe's garage. We did.
You're waking up to what matters. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Appreciate you being with us on Mornings with Richard Cross right here on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day with us as you make your way to work or perhaps making your way to school or getting the kids to school. We genuinely appreciate you bringing us along for the ride. Pretty much everybody's back in school. Got a few that will still start next week. Lance, we've talked about it a lot. That means high school football is almost here. You got practices going on all across the state. I think most everybody's in pads at this point, too. You have the acclimation period. You go from summer workouts into helmets only, and then you go into shoulder pads, but not full pads, and then you put on the pants and you start hitting and leaning on each other and get that sweat going, and still got that the smells and the sounds that go along with it, and in the blink of an eye, we'll be playing games.
Yeah, this is my least favorite time to be a football fan because the only news you really get nowadays in college is bad. Something bad. So you're just close. I put the blinders on like a racehorse for about 3 weeks, trying not to pay much attention.
Though. You must have missed. I made an edict. I issued an edict.
Good.
A week and a half ago.
Edicts, yeah.
Yeah. This coming from Supreme Leader Cross. There shall be 0 injuries for any team in all of college football between the start of camp and the kickoff of the regular season.
Yes, no DUIs, no injuries, no anything bad happening. All the grades are good. Nothing but good news. for everybody.
We got time left in the semester to worry about grades. I'm not concerned about grades right now. I hope everybody's making good decisions away from practice as well. My edict was very limited. This was an executive order with very limited scope. No injuries in camp leading up to the season. Everybody's worked too hard to get ready for this point. Everybody deserves the opportunity to play. No injuries, not allowing it. We'll see how that goes.
I like it. Yeah, well, I hate injuries for anybody. It's the same. I don't want anybody to start the season without their best players. And
I agree.
Yeah, everybody needs to have a full roster.
Everybody. C-Spire text line open to you at 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. Let's see here. Some gas stations in another state were not able to accept SNAP on fried chicken. Gas stations moved to a business model. With the purchase of raw chicken, you could get fried chicken for free. There's always a way around it. I also drive a lot for work, doing repairs and sales in Mississippi and Louisiana. And once I hit the Warren County line, I flip over to the SuperTalk app, and I'm good to go. Thank you for that.
Well, in regard to that, SNAP conversation, there's always a way around it, but there's also going to be 99% of the businesses that are driven by making a living, and they're not going to, unless there's some penalty to, selling fried chicken on SNAP benefits, they're going to sell it.
Yeah. That's anytime there is an issue, especially an issue, Lance, that's just a little bit controversial, there are two sides. And when there are two sides, that means that there will be lobbying efforts on both sides. And if you were to say, hey, you can't buy junk food, you can't buy sugary drinks with a SNAP card with those benefits, then I'm assuming, and I don't know exactly how it works with grocery stores and SNAP benefits, I'm assuming that the grocery store lobby, perhaps the convenience store lobby, perhaps, I don't know, I'm just like throwing out possibilities here. Manufacturers of some of those products would push back in a big way.
Well, then you got TANF, which it's a totally other deal. Housing costs like rent, food, clothing, utilities, child care related expenses, transportation, household necessities, all of that. That you can get cash value on. So, again, we're splitting hairs. There's two programs, and most of the time both are eligible. A temporary assistance for needy families is going to have children involved. That's going to be the eligibility that brings you along from SNAP, is to have children in need as well. So, again, there would be a complete overhaul. I'll say this. I personally witnessed an individual come into a gas station the other day and ask for, where are these gummies that I always buy? The guy said, well, we can't have those on the shelf anymore. We had to pull them. Long conversation developed between the individual, the consumer, and the person who owns or runs the gas station. The individual who's a consumer demanded that he be taken in the back and be able to purchase the remaining whatever it was he was looking for that was saved back on the back shelf. So instead of checking me out, the person who is in charge of the gas station took this individual behind the counter, back into the back, grabbed a box full of stuff that had been pulled off the shelves and can't be sold anymore, and took cash, and guy walked out for it. So, yeah, every law has great intent.
That'll be a limited opportunity, right?
Again,
I guess you could do that with your back stock.
I don't know if that's legal or not, but again, my point is that you're going to have ways around this stuff.
Not.
Yeah, it's not, right. So I'm not quoting the law, but my point is that it's going to take a concerted effort to fix a problem. This is not going to be a law that's passed and all of a sudden everybody starts following this. There's got to be enforcement. That costs a lot of money. Are you going to put this enforcement on who? Who's going to be enforcing this? Flowood Police Department or who? That's my curiosity here, because Flowood is trying to catch criminals, people that are speeding, running into people, all this stuff. So now they're going to have to start policing gas stations and pulling products off the shelf that the individual could go sell out of the back. I don't believe that that's a good way of using our enforcement capacity. But again, this is what's happening. And it's going to happen on the other side with SNAP and TANF and these things as well. These folks want to make a living. And unless they're penalized for doing something illegal, they're going to keep doing it, even if it's out the back door.
Yeah. Have you seen, and thanks to to the text messages that we've gotten on this. This X thread that includes Mike Hurst, the Mississippi Democrat Party, the Secretary of State, and now the governor. You seen this? So there was a post from MS Democrats that was deleted yesterday, but not quickly enough. Nothing has ever completely gone on the internet thanks to screenshots.
Yeah, I told him he better have had that screenshotted, and he goes, "Oh, I got it."
So the Mississippi official Democrat Party on X account yesterday said Pell Grants go to students. Well, the original post, I guess, was from Mike Hurst. And I'm going to have to dig a little bit more. But the Democrat Party tweeted, Pell Grants go to students, not directly to colleges, just like food stamps go to people, not grocery stores. There's a difference between public funds that empower individuals and public dollars handed to private institutions with no oversight. That's the whole point. There was somebody that responded, the Mississippi Democratic Party just accidentally made the case for school choice. Hilarious. Secretary of State Michael Watson followed that up with, just want to leave this here for all to see, and add a big thanks to MS Democrats for beautifully making the case against their own position. And then the governor chimed in. He says, so let me get this straight. Empowering parents through more school choice is a major part of the MS, GOP, and GOP platform. The MS Democrats Party is now on record supporting public funds for empowering individuals, quote unquote, which is also known as a simple admission of the merits of more school choice. Speaker Jason White said publicly last week at Neshoba that more school choice was a top priority for the Mississippi House. So using the rules of logic taught at Florence High School, Michael Watson, if we have a special session this month, shouldn't we expect to get unanimous support in the House and Senate for universal school choice in Mississippi?
Well, I mean, we use public funds to support many private businesses. Why would a private school be off limits? So again, playing the devil's advocate here. I mean, public funds go to purchase all kinds of things for people. Why wouldn't you allow them to use it to purchase, tuition at a school of their choice? Just a thought. I mean, so we're going to restrict education with public funds. You can't do that privately. But everything else in the world's, that's fine.
Russ Latino was in that thread as well, and he got the ball rolling on all of it. Wow. Well, you think that's going to be a hot debate coming up in January? Or did Tate Reeves just let us in on something? Could he be thinking about a special session to address school choice? Possibly. I think that's a question that we should ask him Wednesday morning when he joins us in studio in Jackson. Looking forward to that. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
When they ask where you heard it, you tell them.
I know you heard it right here.
Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mama's gonna wash all the way. She thinks mercy's overrated.
Later today in Oxford, we are, when I say we, I'm talking about the SuperTalk family and extended family, are going to celebrate the retirement of one of our own. And if you have listened to the radio in North Mississippi over the last 20 or so years, if you have listened to the radio on the coast for the, 15 or so years preceding that, you know the voice or maybe I should even say the many voices of Rick Mize, longtime general manager, program director, on-air personality, cutter of spots, taker out of trash, and so many other things. Rick is retiring from his retirement of his retirement, officially. Rick Mize joins me this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Richard.
Appreciate you jumping in to share a little bit. Your career, Rick, is one that is wildly fascinating and has given you a lot of opportunities through a microphone to communicate with people all over the state of Mississippi, and in some cases beyond that. When did it first start? When did your love for radio first start?
Well, it kind of started in a strange way, and it's great to have the opportunity to actually let people know how this can get started. Of course, being a young man from Yocney, Mississippi, I didn't have
the metropolis that is.
Yeah, and so but there's some things that lined up for me. God looked down on me and smiled on me and sent me some people, and one of those was Robin Parker, who is our drama teacher at Lafayette High School. At that time, frankly, we did not really have any arts programs at Lafayette to speak of. And I know in my junior year, she showed up, I think, in the middle school, and they asked her to do a 3-act play at the high school. And so I got involved with that, and our dear friend David Kellum. And so through that, I got interested in being involved in somehow in the entertainment world. Okay. So then that summer, literally, between our junior and senior year, David and I were at the old Larson's Big Star at the time, and we actually bumped into her, and Mrs. Robin Parker, and she said, hey, would you guys be interested in doing a local radio show? We were like, well, where do we sign up? And so that's where it started. And so I always say that because it's important to note this came through a high school teacher. And the only reason I am here today is a high school teacher. And from there, of course, we had our first show. By the way, here's the poster.
Oh, if you're watching on SuperTalk.fm, this is great. This is a sketch drawing of LHS Today, and that is Rick Mize, David Kellum, or Ricky and David, and the late Jimmy, who was a longtime morning show personality, longtime partner of Rick Mize on the radio in Oxford. God rest his soul.
Yeah, so we did the LHS Today. October 1st, 1976 is the first day we went on the air, but I think we were writing the script starting like 2 months earlier. And we did those shows every week, and that's where it started for me. And then, of course, being a friend with David Kellum helped because obviously his mother was in the theater world, and so he had some background. And so that's how it got started for me. And then I worked at WSUH WOOR in Oxford. And from there, just moving across different stations.
Now,
but fairly fortunate. I didn't have to go to a lot of stations. I've got friends in the radio business who've worked in like 15 places.
You mentioned WSUH WOOR. For people that are maybe older Oxford residents or have been around for a long time, is that the radio station that was at the top of University Avenue, kind of
yes,
the east end of University Avenue?
Now.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was a station, of course, eventually Sandow bought that, and they moved the tower to Randolph and the studios to Tupelo. But, that's where I got started. It was on 1420 AM and WOOR FM 98 stereo country. And I did actually do some work, though, in the summer for WCBH, which was a cable-only station at the university, and that was kind of a hoot. I think I played ABBA Dancing Queen like 5 times within an hour. I mean, it was like the only song we had. So every time I hear that song, I just have to go, oh, no, there it is again.
So Lafayette High School, and then Ole Miss, and then it's time to launch a career, not just jobs, but a career. Is that when the move to the coast happened in the mid '80s?
Yeah, the move to the coast. Of course, I got the job in Memphis, which was, I guess, my first big break, and I learned a lot, and I found out that it's all relative, And when then came to back, I worked in Holly Springs for a while, and then of course I helped David and Russell sign on J107 at the time, the precursor to 93.7 here, frankly, and that was in '84, late '84. And so then I got the opportunity in Biloxi. So that was a huge turning point for me. Quite frankly, when I lost the job at WMPS in Memphis, and it was due to ratings, so I got a big lesson in ratings right away. And I thought that was going to be it. And I looked in doing several things, And matter of fact, my father, I'll tell this quick story. My father always told me, he said, son, I want you to make a living with your mind. Because Dad he was a game warden, and he also was a farmer. And he said, I want you to make a living with your mind. And I said, well, Dad, I'm going to get a job in radio. He said, well, maybe you'd like to farm. And it was not until 1991 when Reba McEntire introduced me on CBS television that he said, maybe he can make a living in this. So,
1991, you were named CMA's National Personality of the Year for a small market. So you made the move to the coast in 1985, I think it was.
Right.
And
85 was the year I moved to the coast, yeah.
And we're there for about 15 years, is that right?
Really, a little less than 14.
Okay.
But I will say, though, when I got the call from Bob Lima, who was at that time the operations manager, station manager of WVMI, WQID, legendary calls on the coast at the time, that was a turning point. Now, I had to replace a guy named Mickey Coulter, who was a legend. He was like the Rick Dees of the coast. Okay?
Oh, wow.
And it was not easy. As a matter of fact, Bob was so intelligent about this. He did great research before people even thought about doing research in radio. And he did some research and found out I was doing mornings on QID, a CHR station, but all of my listeners, when I got off the air, were turning to country formats. And so that, and the fact that he ended up being let go by the new company that bought our stations, he moved over and then brought me. Initially, I started at WVMI as a program director briefly, though, before that. But then as far as an air talent, he brought me over to K99 with Eddie Gailey, who Eddie had been a great talent on WVMI for many years. So Eddie really set me up. And I always told her that just recently she passed away in the last 6 months. But she actually opened the door for me to be a great talent on the coast. And the coast then accepted me, a little boy from Yocney, Mississippi, and I had a great time. But that's what he did. He actually did research and showed in the focus groups that the country listeners, my persona fit that very well. And it was very, very great idea, and it moved over there. And, of course, I have all these accolades that I got Richard there. And then, of course, I've made numbers, and I've made numbers in Arbitron, and I've made numbers in radio here at SuperTalk Media. For, in terms of dollars. And
sure.
All of that, frankly, has just been because of the people I've been around. I'm not saying I have no talent, but I'm telling you, the people that have been around me have helped me and support me, and that is an important part of what's made me.
This is not radio specific. It's a conversation that I've had with guests that have that call coastal Mississippi or the Mississippi Gulf Coast home. I felt for a long time growing up in North Mississippi like the coast was another world. Like, I knew it was part of Mississippi, but it didn't really feel that much like it was part of Mississippi. It feels like that gap has been bridged significantly. I don't know if that's post-Katrina, what the time frame is. As somebody who has lived much of your life in North Mississippi, but also spent a significant part of your life on the coast, does it feel like the gap has been bridged a little?
Hard to say. We always.
And by the way, Radio Talk, we got 30 seconds till the break, so make it fast, but then we'll pick it up on the other side of the timeout.
Okay, I'll just say this. I remember that when I was there, they were thinking everybody south of I-10 wanted to secede from the state, so hopefully things are better.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case anymore. At least I hope that's not the case. It's an incredible part of the state of Mississippi. What about Rick Mize's experience in the country music world? We will explore that on the other side of this break. Rick Mize finally, officially retiring from radio. Maybe. We're back after this.
Super Talk Mississippi.
You heard it here first.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Here comes the news.
Let's go to Lincoln Rock, Texas. Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoy.
I bet that's a song that Rick Mize has played a time or two on the radio through the years.
Right. Well, a lot of people ask the question of what music I listen to, and I have a very diverse taste. I mean, you might get in my car and hear the Charlie Daniels album, and then the next CD would be Singing in the Rain. So I have a fairly diverse taste. But I will say this, as of course you know, I've been on the air in the Oxford market in North Mississippi and Q105 more recently, which I came off the air of the morning show in 2019, which was a good transition for me to get into more management sales and to get off the air, and kind of is helping me a little bit in this retirement business, frankly. But I like Post Malone, and I like the Jelly Rolls, and I like the new artists, and some of them. But you'll find right now my playlist consists of Merle Travis and Johnny Cash and Eddie Arnold, and it's the whole.
Wait, Merle Travis or Merle Haggard?
No, Merle Travis. No
Herbie Hancock in there. Come on, man.
Merle Travis divorced me, COD. But I'm just saying, what I did when I was at WMPS in Memphis, they put me on the Sunday Night Oldies show, which was a fascinating thing for me because it was a night show, and at nighttime, the AM signal, I had listeners in Florida, and I would actually play, all the old stuff, Hank Sr., I'm so lonesome I could cry, whatever. And that's actually something I enjoy listening to right now. That's the current playlist in my car. Country music, a big part of my career. As a broadcaster, though, you just need to be able to communicate, because remember, you don't always go fishing with things you like to eat. So whatever format you need to play in a market, whatever you need to do, talk radio, then you do it.
Yeah. One of the things that I've always thought about radio is it has this unique ability to transport you to a place where your feet are not in that moment. And a lot of that's sports related, right? The announcer that you grow up with. If you grow up a St. Louis Cardinals fan and you're living in northeast Mississippi, the radio with Jack Buck had the ability to transport you to Old Sportsman Park or to Busch Stadium. And we know that with our college announcers as well, whether you're talking about, David Kellum for Ole Miss fans or the late Jack Crystal for Mississippi State fans. They can tell you where they were when they heard something and felt like they were there. Yeah. Why is that? Why is it that radio has had that power of connection, whether it's sports, talk, music, your local DJ that you wake up with every morning? Why is that?
Well, hopefully the DJ or the announcer, play-by-play guy, whatever, is making that jump out of the box. And that's the whole goal, is to connect with people, get to the heart. And that's always been the most thrilling thing for me as a programmer. And I remember on the Gulf Coast, I had this said in more recently here in North Mississippi. I've had people that said, I was in St. Louis all week, and I was coming home, and I turned my radio to Q105, and I heard you, and I felt like I'm home. Well, that's pretty strong. I've always joked with David Kellum. I said, well, when you make a call on the radio, this might be history. You may be listening to it for the next 100 years. I got up and gave her the weather, and they forgot about it tomorrow. So it's just, it is a fun thing that I have enjoyed it so much. I always tell people on radio, and I teach some classes at universities and adjunct occasionally. And, radio to me is you serve two customers. You serve the listener and you serve the client. And if you don't serve both of them, you die.
Rick, there's even with all of the ways that we can consume media through our phones and televisions and radios and devices and computers and like all the ways, there's never been more opportunity to consume. When
crazy.
When things go badly, when we have tragedy that strikes, when we have natural disasters, and you can't get your TV and your phone battery is dead, radio still seems to be there.
Yeah.
Whether it's a hurricane on the coast, tornadoes in the central part of the state, an ice storm that hits North Mississippi, it's in those most traumatic moments sometimes that we always go back to radio.
Yeah. I've been able to deal with some of those on the radio. I go back to when I was on the Gulf Coast, and oddly enough, during the time that Candy and I lived on the Gulf Coast, we were never hit by a hurricane. And,
wow.
I always jokingly said, I moved there after Elena, and I left before George. And so it was like, God knew that if so much as a limb was down in my yard, my wife would say, we've got to leave. So he spared me.
She didn't want any part of that.
Yeah, he spared me that. We did evacuate a couple of times, but the hurricanes turned.
Yeah.
And but we got to help Morgan City, and Gwen Wilson, my morning partner, she went down with Major Spraggins and the group from the National Guard, Air Guard, and went down and helped. And so that was a cool thing. Had the ice storm in North Mississippi when you turned that around, and I actually drove up here with money that I had made on the Gulf Coast to give to people in the Delta and the Oxford area that needed help, money and lights and whatnot.
Yeah.
And water, we brought water and that sort of thing. The most recent thing that I did too, when we talk about making connections, one of the things I've done most proud here in North Mississippi with SuperTalk Media is COVID. When COVID hit, I offered for the churches to have a 30-minute broadcast on Easter at no charge for Easter. And so we had 10 churches who agreed to this, and we did it. And honestly, I think it's one of the greatest things I've ever done in radio, because people needed to hear a word of encouragement at that time. It was a crazy time, and of course, as we know, divisive and everything.
Yeah.
And that was a cool thing to do. Those are the kind of things when you make the connection outside the box. And you've got to be super local. That's what I tell people. I mean, one of the things, of course, we got with SuperTalk Mississippi is we're super local to Mississippi, right?
Right.
And that's great. And then on the local level, we also have to engage locally with the station, too, to continue making it local. And that's the same thing with our music stations as well. If you don't do it, I mean, you can turn on any service you want. Like you said, there's all sorts of things available on the smartphone and other devices that will take you everywhere.
Rick Mize was on the coast in Biloxi from 1985 until 1998, made his move back to North Mississippi in August of 1998, and we're visiting with him this morning as he retired at the end of the year, but has stayed on and has continued to work with us and may continue to do that in some form or fashion. I'm not... You're kind of like a cockroach, Rick. I don't know that we'll ever be able to completely get rid of you, and I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. I would like to explore in the last couple of minutes that we've got your relationship with the Country Music Association, some of the people that you've gotten to meet, and things that you've been able to do. You're a voter, I believe, for the CMA Awards. Is that right?
Right. I was made a lifetime member of the CMA in 2005. And so that, I consider that a great honor. And so I vote every year. I do have to do some homework sometimes because I've been out of the format somewhat. But at any rate, I listen, I dealt with a lot of people, a lot of great people. I never met a country artist really that was not a lot of fun to deal with. Now, most of my country artists we're talking about precede at least 2000, it was in the 80s and 90s for the most part. And I've got all the CDs and the vinyl records and all that. But dealing with different ones, Conway Twitty, I dealt with Conway Twitty many times, and I wasn't a huge Conway fan, but he was absolutely the best guy backstage. His real name is Harold Lloyd Jenkins, but his stage name is Conway Twitty, and he absolutely did it in the most business personal way. Of all the artists that I ever went backstage with, and I can list a lot of them, Conway, who I dealt with many times, was the most proficient. He had a table. He would come in. He would greet you. He would sign an autograph. He would take a picture. He would visit with you a moment and go to the next person. I've seen some of the artists that would just kind of wander around the room. He really had it down to a science. And so Conway was one. Now, Garth Brooks, I give Garth the credit. He's probably maybe number 2 on my list for being personal in the backstage. But I got to deal with a lot of, the CMA award opened up a lot of doors for me. And like I say, I actually won, of course, program director of the year in 1989. And then, as you said, personality in 91. We were nominated in 90. The whole time, Richard, the funny thing is our goal was to win Station of the Year. We were nominated, I think the year was 1990, for Station of the Year. So we were actually always trying to win that award, but by virtue of doing that, when you had all the information together to enter the other categories as well. So that's how I benefited from it.
Well, we are running out of time. I want to say thank you. You and I have been, you've been my boss. We've been colleagues.
Sort of, kind of.
I mean, the old high school football days when it all started out, you were my boss then. We have been colleagues. I have an immense amount of respect for you. I thank you for always being gracious.
Hey, I do want to say one thing.
Okay.
Of all the accolades I received, Ken Combs, mayor of Gulfport, in 1991, from the city of Gulfport, gave me an award for patriotism. And I will never forget that. And he surprised me with it. And of all the accolades I've received, it's my favorite.
A life spent in radio, a retirement well-earned and well-deserved. We wish you and Candy all the best, Rick. Thanks so much for spending some time with me this morning.
Thank you. And this video thing, this is weird for me, man.
Still radio, though. Still radio.
From the Venable Glass.
Check this out. Now, what can be offered to you?
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Information.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you this morning as we wrap things up on this Thursday edition of Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks to Rick Mize for joining us. And as I was saying, Rick has been a friend. He's been a mentor. He has been a boss, a superior, a colleague, a good one to bounce ideas off of, a good person who was willing to listen with regard to frustrations along the way that everybody has in every job. And just an all-around good person. And you can very clearly hear the passion that exists from Rick Mize when he talks about radio. He's a lover of music. He is a lover of communication. And it was really cool to spend some time with Rick today. We get a message on the C Spire text line. Mr. Mize, Keith from the Rooster Run. Hope you have a good retirement. You have always been great to us. There were several of you that mentioned other radio personalities in other parts of the state that Rick may have known or crossed paths with or worked alongside, and it's really cool. And if anybody has earned retirement, Rick Mize has. He is, I think, planning to spend a good bit more time with his dear wife Candy, who has fairly recently retired as well. Somebody says, Rick, great job on the interview, although the station in Oxford went off the air part of the time while you were there. It happens, and if anybody understands that, a lifelong radio person can understand that as well. So a lot of good stuff. Let's see, Lance, what have we got? We've got a couple of things. An hour ago, well, 7:22 a.m. on the East Coast, so maybe a couple of hours ago, Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. You ready? I have instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern-day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024, people who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay.
Can you just call a new census? Isn't there a federal law? I mean, I don't know exactly how that works, but I'm in. Yeah. Just count the citizenry.
Here is what the Constitution of the United States says about the census. Addresses it in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, the enumeration clause. Direct text. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of the Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. So the purpose of the census was to determine representation in the United States House of Representatives and to apportion direct taxes among the states. In terms of frequency, it must occur every 10 years. I don't think there is language that precludes it from occurring more often.
I went through it a while back. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember any restrictions stating it can't be done, but I believe there has to be some type of congressional approval to fire off another census, being costly and such, and they have the power of the purse. So,
and specifically, the original, you heard it there a second ago, the clause used the now obsolete 3/5 compromise, which was nullified by the 14th Amendment and excluded Indians not taxed, quote unquote. Today, the census counts all persons residing in the United States, regardless of citizenship status. Congress decides how the census is conducted, meaning it can pass laws detailing the method, content, and use of census data. The census is conducted under the Department of Commerce. You got Howard Lutnick running commerce for President Donald Trump. We will see where this goes. There has been Stephen Miller, who is one of the chief communicators for this president, has said that if illegals were excluded from the census, it would result in additional 20 to 30 congressional seats for Republicans. You wonder why Democrats have tried to make it easy for illegals to get into the country. You wonder why Democrats are going to fight so hard against this recount and excluding illegals, and they're going to claim it's unconstitutional. You wonder why it's going to end up in the Supreme Court. That's what's at stake. This small majority, if that turns into a 25, 30 seat majority, that changes the game dramatically. I'll be back with you on Monday. Lance will be here tomorrow. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Have a great Thursday.
A Super Talk Mississippi media production.